Hi friends, I'm Lane. I've been having fun doing some book reviews for this channel, but I am also working on some writing. So I wanted to give you a little info about what I've been up to. In my Amish romance review video, I said that I was inspired to write the opposite of Amish romance, which at the time I thought would be queer sci-fi Christian romance. That's not quite what I ended up writing. I was originally thinking this is something I would attempt to traditionally publish, which doesn't feel like an option anymore, but moving on. But I was thinking if I was going with a Christian publisher, I actually should do the first book straight and then bring more queer things into the second book. So that is the way that this little short trilogy is going. So I have been working on the second book, and getting to write about the queer themes has been really delightful. But the first one is going to be a little more sci-fi, the second one more post-apocalyptic. I mean, they're both post-apocalyptic. But the first one will have a straight romance. And if you cared for Star Trek in the 90s at all, it's kind of a ship in the bottle episode where they are on the spaceship, they're going to Mars, and you are just trapped in that confined space. And there will be some metaphorical feelings of being trapped, as well as the actual physical claustrophobia of that experience. However, as I've been going down that process, I realized I'm doing everything wrong. First, I'm doing everything wrong in terms of marketability. I'm writing completely the wrong genre. I mean, obviously I'm not writing romantasy, which is the hot thing still somehow. Sci-fi is one of those things that is like adjacent to fantasy, but usually doesn't appeal to the same people at all. I am trying to write a Christian story, but because I'm questioning everything about Christian beliefs and how things are done, Christian readers mostly aren't gonna like it. In particular, like Christian romance readers are looking for something very specific that I'm not giving. I'd like to think that there's a lot of progressive Christian readers who would really enjoy this story, but at the moment, on faith issues, I think they're reading a lot of nonfiction, and for any fiction they might be enjoying, it has nothing to do with faith. Tell me if I'm wrong, comment below, but I'm worried that I'm writing something that doesn't have an audience that's already put in place. I also might have made some personal mistakes. I don't know why I'm writing something romantic at all, as that is not like deeply encoded in my DNA. And it feels like a lot of the things that might come kind of basic to other people are a little bit of a struggle for me. So that's the surprise journey I'm on for trying to write this. The next reason I'm doing everything wrong has to do with technique. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with handwriting a story. It's a little slower, but this isn't the only way I can put words on a page, but it definitely is the only way that I feel motivated to. So I wrote my draft, and then I typed it up, and I found out it was less than 20,000 words long. And the kind of basic minimum length for a novel would be like 50, and many are much, much longer than that. So I realized I'd actually written a novella, and I don't know if it could be actually transformed into a novel, or if it's best just to stick with, hey, I wrote something short, that's okay. I'm still figuring this part out. It is highlighting a skill that I need to be working on. I realize that I am an underwriter. Didn't know that was a term. I have always disliked overwriting in stories, when people repeat themselves a lot, or they give a lot of detail that doesn't actually move the plot forward or further characters. I'm really big into the Kurt Vonnegut rules for writing, and he really encourages you not to waste the reader's time. But maybe I've taken that too far. And I could include some more details and some more subplots and some more storytelling that I've just left behind. The other issue I've had with underwriting is that I realized I resolve tension too quickly. And this is especially important in a romantic story, is that you gotta drag out that tension for people to actually be rooting for the characters to get together. Because if you make it too easy, it's boring to read. And that's hard for me because in real life, I am a big fan of de-escalating, clear communication, sorting out that situation before it turns into a big problem. So forcing myself to write people who are not resolving their tension was a little work for me, because I've kind of already rewired my brain to not do that in real life. So those are things I'm working on right now. The other problem I've had with the technique is that I wrote my novella, whatever, completely out of order. Again, I'm just going with what's interesting me. I have a scene that I'm excited about, so I write that scene. I have a conversation that I'm working on in my head, so I write that down. I want to rewrite the introduction, so I write that. I'm working on the climax, so I write that. And then I had all these pieces I had to try to cram together, and that wasn't smooth. I had to go back and fill in the blanks and completely rearrange things and rewrite things. And I still feel like that's the way I needed to write it to get it done. But I also caused a lot of problems for myself, and I don't know if I'd recommend it. I've also gotten a rough draft of my second book at this point, and have found both of my books to be very dialogue heavy. That is because the really important thing in these stories to me is that these characters are changing their minds about something, and they are going through that process by having good conversations with other people. But I don't think most people want to read a book that's just conversations. There needs to be plot. There needs to be external conflict. And that's taking me a little while to get there. But let me tell you about the plot of the first book real quick. It's 2066. Ione is a teenager whose parents have taken her away from Earth's disasters on a rocket ship to Mars. But as they have given up on everything, Ione is worried how much of their family identity and their faith is going to be left behind. Communications are down, so Ione can't check on her friends and find out if they're all right. But she meets Zichen, an attractive international student who sees the universe differently and helps her as she starts to question everything. Will Ione hold on to her beliefs, or will she change to something new? And you can see I've got a draft of my cover here. This isn't a reveal. I'm still going to work on this. Still have no idea if I'm going to pay someone, make it professional or whatever, but I did have fun playing around on Canva. I got some very harsh feedback on Reddit, but this second round went a little bit better. So that's what we've got for the moment. We will see. It really depends on how much money I actually want to put into self-publishing, because self-publishing is one of those things where you shouldn't go into it expecting to make money. So I feel like, how much do I really want to spend when there's no good reason to think I'm going to sell 10,000 copies or 1,000 copies or 100 copies. Boy, I'd be happy if I sold 100 copies. Wouldn't that be neat? I actually was planning on self-publishing in 2025. I had finished my rough draft in January, so it seemed like it would be pretty easy to get through editing and self-publishing. But it's good that I didn't. I sent it to my beta readers first and got very mixed feedback. 2 people loved it, 2 people didn't finish it. And some of the commentary I got, I don't think I was able to fully take her process at the time. So I sort of set it aside and just started working on the second one. And the second book was going so much smoother, making so much more sense. 1, being more romantic, 2, having more of a plot, 3, having more drama. Just a lot of the problems of the first one were being resolved almost without trying in the second book. So I thought, oh, I think I can go back and do a better run through on the first book now. Also, the problem is these are supposed to be a trilogy, so I don't know if you're allowed to do with novellas. That feels like cheating, but whatever. So I wonder if actually I really need to rough draft through all 3 of them before I can publish the first one. I'm not sure yet. I would like to do it sooner than that. Even though I'm doing everything wrong, I still like this book anyways. I feel like I am writing the books that I want to read. So I hope that there is going to be an audience out there for that as well. Maybe I am being a little bit selfish. I'm kind of writing these in a self-therapy sort of way. The first book has real conversations that I've had with people, and one of those conversations was left unresolved years ago, and I get to resolve that conversation in this story. It's deeply satisfying. I thought it made for a really lovely moment in the storytelling. Like, even if you don't know like my personal history behind that, it just worked. It worked out well in a nice way. I'm also working really hard to reinterpret the conversion story that I expect to see in Christian fiction. That even if there's not like the traditional moment where someone goes from being a non-Christian to being a Christian, there is a moment where a change happens. And you've got a story about it, and there's something life-giving about letting go of something, changing your mind about something, looking at something in a new way, and have it actually like redirect your life. That's a story I want to read, and so it's the story that I'm trying to write. Love to hear any other stories you know that are like that. That is certainly what I'm hoping for in the future. Thanks so much for listening.